Work hours are kind of interesting in video production because there sometimes really aren't set hours. I mean, there's definitely people who are a part of unions and stuff, and there's very strict rules around that. But a lot of people who may be freelance contractors who are outside of any guild or anything like that, they might have more flexible schedules. And oftentimes that's needed by a lot of different clients and a lot of different projects. They need flexibility, and so that's what they're looking for. And you definitely want to make sure that you're not being taken advantage of and being abused. But at the same time, you still have to have an understanding of production, and anything creative in general is usually a collaboration between a bunch of different people, and every one of those people has their own schedule and their own problems and solutions that they're trying to come up with. So you might be looking at it like, well, I said I was going to be here at this time, I'm supposed to leave at this time, this is the work I was going to do, but there's so many other factors at play. So what I like to do is always do 100%. I'm always going to do my best, and I'm going to say yes as often, as frequently as possible. And that can cause problems where people start taking advantage of that. But if you start working with somebody who's like that and you can see that, you can start to push back just a little bit. It doesn't have to be a rude, like, no, I'm not going to do that. But at the same time, you do need to set those boundaries. It's really important that you do. Otherwise, you will find yourself in a situation over and over and over again, constantly being taken advantage of. And that's just exhausting, and no one wants to work in a situation like that. If it's a one-off kind of thing, like 10% of the time things go late, or you end up doing something that you didn't quite expect that you were going to do, I think that's kind of okay, because those are the solutions that oftentimes come into play when there are unexpected problems. There always are problems. There's always things that you have to figure out. And part of that solution process is being willing to do things that maybe you weren't originally required to do. But if it becomes a thing where it's 50% of the time, 80% of the time, you see patterns with clients or with certain people, definitely push back. And don't do it like at the time, right? Don't do it when you're on set in the situation. Take a deep breath, suck it up, get through it, don't make a scene. But after the fact, or the next week, the next day, whatever it might be, take them aside and just talk to them one-on-one and say, hey, I really can't keep working for free for you, or I can't keep working these crazy hours because I've got a family, I've got other projects I need to take care of, whatever the reason is for you. But at least those honest conversations can happen, and that person can say, well, I don't have to work with you, I can find somebody else. And that might be the case. They might be that person, and you just have to kind of sever ties and just say, okay, well, next time, pick someone else, because at that point you probably don't want to work with this person anyway. But the flip side of that is probably what they're going to say is, thank you so much for being a team player. I really understand. We're going to try and make this better next time. And you can just make sure that the next project, check those things up front. Okay, what are the hours? What are we doing? What am I expected to be doing? What role am I playing? Ask those questions, get those expectations in advance. And then if it goes wrong again, you can have another conversation with them after the fact and say, look, we already talked about this. The same things happened again. And maybe at that point you cut it off and you just say, I really can't keep doing this. And that's okay, but just being honest and talking to people outside of the situation, because in the situation it can be really, really frustrating. And that's when fights break out, and that's when arguments start. And that's not good. You don't want to bring that into an actual project, because when you're working on the project, that should be the focus, not all the tension and stuff around it. So hopefully that doesn't happen and you don't have to deal with that too frequently. But every time, sometimes it can come up on certain productions when you're just, people are different and they have different expectations of what other people should be doing, what they should be doing. And so it can be kind of challenging to work through that stuff. But if you have those honest conversations about those expectations, get that stuff figured out in advance, and then you guys can hopefully all be on the same page.